Hi guys, my name is Sana and today I'm showing you guys my favorite cake recipe. This is a basic cake recipe. It is a tea cake. I don't add anything to it. There's no buttercream, there's no whipped cream, there's no filling, there's no topping. It's just cake and it is delicious. It's sweet. Oh my God, it is so yummy. And it is a recipe that my mom perfected when she was much younger. It is a recipe that everyone loves in the family. We make this at least once a month. My kids eat it for breakfast with their tea, so you can kind of call it a tea cake. My kids call it teta cake because teta in Arabic means grandma and it's their grandma's recipe. So we're about to start. I'm gonna make this cake today for you guys two ways. The basic normal way that I make it every time, and then an extra special way where I marble it with chocolate, and it is, oh my God, so yummy. That's why today you'll see an orange here. I'm using orange zest instead of lemon. I usually use lemon. I always use lemon. I'm using orange because it works better when I'm marbling it with chocolate. So that's why this is here. Now to start off, like every video, I'm gonna show you what I'm using. These are the ingredients, and pause. You guys can see the written recipe entirely in the comments below and on my blog, sanazest.com. Alrighty, for this recipe, I'm using 5 eggs, and always use room temperature eggs. Don't take your eggs straight out of the fridge. Now, if you absolutely have to and you didn't have time, it's fine. For this recipe, it's a very easy recipe and it's forgiving. We're also gonna use some whole milk. You can use fat-free milk or 2% milk, but whole milk just tastes better. Really good cocoa powder for the marbling. A little bit of cooking oil, just any kind of oil. I'm using sunflower oil here today. Some salt, some vanilla, butter, and I'm only using this little tiny bit of butter to, well, this is not, I'm going to use a even smaller section of this butter to grease my pans. I have 2 pans because I'm making it 2 ways, okay? I am also using some melted butter, which is in my microwave. I'm gonna go grab it now. I'm using sugar and I'm using all-purpose flour. All right, I'm gonna grab my butter. Butter, butter makes everything better, so. Okay, let's start. First, I'm gonna crack my eggs. Like I said, I'm using 5 eggs. I'm gonna crack them in here because I don't wanna end up with any eggshells. I don't know about you, but I do not like having eggshells in my food. It just ruins everything. Look at that, as we were talking about eggshells, all of this falls in. Alrighty, I am adding my 5 eggs to my mixer, and I'm about to start my mixer on high. I'm gonna fluff the heck out of these eggs, okay? So I'm gonna be mixing those eggs in my mixer on high for around 5 minutes. We do use baking powder, but we also use the air that's being incorporated into these eggs. As soon as I put my eggs and they start mixing up really well in there, and you're gonna start seeing them change color. They're gonna get much lighter. Once that happens, we're gonna add our sugar. And I use 2.5 cups of sugar. I know that that's a lot of sugar, but this is a sweet cake. Like I said, we're not adding any buttercream or whipped cream or toppings or fillings or anything in this cake. The cake itself is sweet, okay? We're still not there, so I'm gonna let it mix a little bit more. In the meantime, I'm gonna mix my oils, or butter and oil. Like I told you, I'm using 1/2 cup or 1 stick of butter. I melted it in the microwave a while ago so that it's a little cool. And to that, I'm adding another 1/2 cup of cooking oil, any kind of vegetable oil. So I want to end up with a whole cup of fat, okay? Now I can give you a tip here. You can use a whole cup of melted butter to have a denser, I guess, like richer cake. Or you can stick to this, the way I mixed it, butter and oil, for a fluffier, lighter cake. And for a really light cake, you can also use something that I like to use sometimes is cake flour. Cake flour is just I think the flour is thinner or tinier particles. I don't know what it is, but cake flour makes your cake a lot fluffier. It's not as dense and it's not as like compact. Okay, I'm adding the sugar. That is 1 cup. And you can see the color of the eggs. It is already getting lighter. And you can see all the bubbles. That's all the air incorporating. I've got 2 cups of sugar so far, and I'm adding another half. And you can always play around with the sweetness. If this is too sweet for you, you can always put just 2 cups of sugar. It is going to change the flavor a little bit, but trust me, it'll be just as good. Now to this, I am adding some orange zest. I'm going to zest this half of this orange because that'll be too much if I do the whole thing. And I like to use my microplane. It just gives me very teeny tiny little orange zests. I think I'll end up with around 1.5 teaspoons of orange zest, but you don't have to be too particular, too exact in this recipe. Like I said, this recipe is so forgiving. And I want to remind you guys that this cake is delicious with lemon zest too. I'm using orange because I'm gonna mix some of it with chocolate. And you know, chocolate and orange are just a marriage made in heaven. So here is my orange zest. I am about to add it into the egg and sugar mixture. Now we're gonna let this mix for a couple more minutes, just so that the sugar dissolves a little bit and it's like it gains some height, okay? So I want you to take a look here at this color. Look at how beautiful and light it is. It is much lighter than when we started. It's already been mixing for 2 or 3 minutes, and we'll leave it for another 2 minutes and we'll be back. While this is mixing for another couple of minutes, I'm gonna give you a quick tip. This cake can be used as birthday cake, where you can, you know, put some whipped cream in it, design it, decorate it, and make it really fancy. And I'll tell you how. You cut out some of the sugar. You use not half, but maybe 2 cups of sugar instead of 2.5 cups of sugar, and use cake flour. The cake flour is going to make it super fluffy and light, and the little bit of less sugar that you're doing is going to give you, you know, some leeway to add some whipped cream or some buttercream and really decorate it. You can stick to the flavors. You can do orange. You can do lemon. What I've done before too is once we add flour, you can add some ground up nuts, like really powdered nuts. I would use pistachio and some almonds. Oh my God, it tastes so good. It changes the entire cake. If you do that, add some simple syrup on top, and oh, you're gonna love it. Okay, I think our egg mix is ready. It has gained a little bit of height, and it is very pale. It looks like the sugar is mostly dissolved. At this point, I'm going to add a cup of milk, an entire cup of milk, and then let that mix for another minute. I'm going to put it on lower speed when I add the milk because I don't want that splattering all over myself. That has happened. Now that I added it, I'm going to speed it up again. At this point, I'm going to add my vanilla flavoring. I'm going to use a teaspoon of vanilla, really good vanilla. All right, now that this has mixed up really well, I'm going to start adding our dry ingredients. And first, I'm going to add the flour. And believe it or not, I don't sift my flour for this cake. I sift my flour for every other cake, except this one. Watch me regret this. But honestly, I've never had any issues with unsifted flour, only in this recipe. I don't know why. It's like, you know, the ancestral magic. So I'm gonna add 3 cups of flour in here, and this is just all-purpose flour. 3 whole cups. And of course, when you turn this mixer back on, you want to do it slowly so that you don't get hit with flour in your face. With this flour, I'm going to add 3 teaspoons of baking powder. That's a teaspoon for every cup. We're also going to add maybe around half a teaspoon of salt. And now what I like to do is start it off really slow, like I said. It'll start incorporating. And once you see, like, let's say most of the flour being incorporated, I want you to start adding your oil mixture, your oil and butter mixture. Unless you're using just butter, which is also totally fine. This step is crucial because I really don't want to overmix my cake. I don't want to start any gluten in there. I want it to be fluffy and tender and yummy. So I'm going to stop right here. It is actually just incorporated. I can still see flour in there. But what I can do is I can take this off and use a spatula to just mix it by hand. And that way I'll avoid any overmixing. So I'm going to take this off so I don't make a mess. All right, you can still see the specks of orange. You can still see some of the flour, and that's okay. I really did not want to overmix this. So I'm just going to use my spoon. As you can see, I'm going to go from the outside and then cut it in the middle. And then do another round from the outside, cut it in the middle, and I'll keep doing this until all the flour is incorporated. If you overmix or if you mix this too quickly or even use a whisk, the cake, all the air that we've incorporated in the beginning is going to collapse and you're going to end up with, probably a cookie or a biscuit, not a cake. This looks okay already. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to split this in half. I'm going to bake half of it just the way it is, and the other half I'm going to add a little bit of chocolate. I've got these 2 pans that I've prepared. They're square. You can use anything really. And you can also make it in one big one. I'm using the 2 because I'm splitting the flavors. And what I'm going to do here is butter my pans, grease my pans. I'm only going to use some butter and a little bit of flour. I'm not going to put any parchment paper. I think this is plenty of butter. Let's see, I might have overdone it. But what I do is I really just get the butter everywhere in every little nook and cranny. If you don't do this step, if you skip it, your cake is going to stick to the bottom of this pan or on the sides. And you're going to have to eat that cake with a fork or a spoon straight out of the pan, which I have done. Not a proud moment, but we don't let any cake go to waste, okay? But if you want to serve this cake and you want it to look pretty, please butter your pan. It is very, very, very important. Okay, so now I'm going to add a little bit of flour to those pans on top of the butter, and this is just an extra step to ensure that our cakes do not stick in the pans. I'm just going to run it around everywhere, make sure it gets into all the corners and the sides, and then you can dump any excess in your sink. Okay, this is what my pans look like. You can see they have butter, they have flour. Nothing is going to stick to these. Now I'm going to dump around half of this batter into one of them. And most of the other half into the other, leaving a little bit of batter to play with, where I'm going to use that chocolate mix and marble the second cake. This is a little bit too much still, so I'm going to add a bit here. You want to end up with around maybe a cup of batter. This one needed it. Okay. In this little bit, I'm going to add, say, around half a tablespoon of really good cocoa powder. And I'm just going to mix it by hand. Ooh, you can already smell this. It is going to be delicious. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna do little lines and blobs. It doesn't have to make any sense. Just do it any which way, because I'm gonna go in and marble it with my knife. Okay. Now I'm gonna go in with just a regular dinner knife and I am going to marble it. And you can just do, like I'm doing infinity signs. You can do little S's. Really whatever floats your boat. I don't want to over mix it because I do want to still taste the difference between the chocolate and the regular batter. That's it. Now grab a paper towel and clean up your edges. You don't want this to fall into the oven and burn. Alrighty, these are gonna go into the oven at 350 and we're gonna do around 45 minutes, but I would say check it at 40 minutes. The way I check my cakes, I don't use toothpicks, I don't use anything. I check with bounce. I touch it in the middle with my finger. If that little indentation bounces back, it's ready. If it doesn't, it needs a couple more minutes. If it's still liquidy and jiggly in the middle, 5 minutes at least. All right, we're gonna go in. Guys, I put the cakes in the oven. They're gonna take around 40 to 45 minutes, sometimes a little more, sometimes a little less, you never know. I would say just check them at the 40-minute mark. And it depends on your oven. You know your oven. Mine usually takes 45 minutes exactly. Like I said, just touch it a little bit with your finger in the middle, and if it bounces back, you're good. That cake is done. You wanna take it out, you wanna cool it, leave it outside for a little bit, and then enjoy it with tea or coffee. I'll come back in a minute to show you what it's gonna look like. Hi guys, welcome back. The cakes are officially ready. They're out of the oven and they smell delicious. The entire house smells like chocolate, a hit of orange, and just delicious sweetness. I'm about to take them out of their pans because they have been cooling in here for around 20 minutes. My sweet husband took these out of the oven for me. And now I'm gonna put them on my cooling rack. Here it is. And if you don't have one, that's fine. You can just let them cool in their pans for around an hour. I use this right here with my hand to flip it. Just a little jiggle here. There it goes. And then I'll flip it back onto my cooling rack. There's cake number one. This is the one that was a marble, chocolate marble. I'm gonna work on the second one. This was the plain one. It only had the orange flavor, no marbling. Still quite delicious, especially with a cup of hot tea. Now let's jiggle this one out as well. There you go. And onto the cooling rack. There, fits them exactly. Alrighty, I cut up a few pieces and put them on here. I mixed it up, a little bit of marble and a little bit of orange. As you can see, they look super delicious. Look at the structure in this cake. This is a denser, heavier cake. You do want to enjoy this with a cup of milk or some tea or some coffee. And I just want to bring the camera a little close to the cake here that I'm still cutting up. If you can hear this, the 5 eggs that we used are creating such a beautiful crunch on the top layer. Just listen to this. As you can see, this top layer is beautifully crispy and crunchy, and then you've got a super delicious fluffy cake underneath. This is so yummy. I'm gonna take a bite of the plain one. Oh my God. This is so good. Orangey, delicious. You can make it lemony. You can put some nuts in it, however you like it. All right, you guys, thank you so much for watching. This was so much fun sharing with you. This is such a beloved recipe in my family. My kids love it. Everyone loves it. We eat this for breakfast with tea, especially my kids. It is so yummy. I'm telling you, I make this at least once a month, and it is a very nice thing to make for your neighbors and for your friends. So I'd love to see you guys make it. Post it in the comments, send me pictures, and I'll see you guys next video.